Hey, everybody. Welcome to a new episode of the Happy Productive Podcast. Buckle up. I think this one is going to be a great one. I have a special guest today, Jeffrey Hayzlett. He is a primetime television host, a global business celebrity, speaker, best-selling author, and chairman and CEO of the C-Suite Network. And okay, as if that wasn't amazing enough, he is also a public speaker, a former Fortune 100 CMO, and author of not one, not two, not three, but four, you guys, four best-selling books, including Think Big, Act Bigger, and The Hero Factor, How Great Leaders Transform Organizations and Create Winning Cultures. Jeff, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, I am super excited to have you here. And one of the things that I know you talk a lot about is hard work. And I want to talk about hard work for a second, because I know a lot of business owners, we do work hard. I think there's some business owners out there that don't work hard. And talk to us a little bit about like the right kind of hard work and what that looks like.
Well, hard work is always the tough thing to do. If it was easy, everybody would do it. Not everybody that's successful is going to do the kind of work that you have to do. Really, what you want to do is be always focusing on what problem you're solving, right? I mean, if you're really getting to the core root of the problem you're solving for somebody else, it makes it a lot easier. Even though the work might be hard, it just makes it easier. The other piece of it that I always like to focus on are what I call conditions of satisfaction or mutual conditions of satisfaction if you're working with somebody else. But what are you trying to drive for yourself? What are the key things that drive you every single day? For me, I have three simple ones. I like to build wealth. I want to make sure my family's living in a different way than when I was growing up, and I want them to move forward in a different way, especially my granddaughters that I have. I want to make sure that they're set up for a better future than I started with. And then I also want to, learn new things. That's my second condition of satisfaction. So I'm always striving to learn. I'm one of those readers, one of those watchers, one of those listeners all the time. But I want to make sure that I'm learning new things in the business. And, I kind of tell everybody I'm a millennial trapped in a baby boomer's body. That's the way I kind of describe it. So, and then last but not least, I want to have fun. I want to do things that are fun. And if they're not fun, even if they're hard work, they got to be fun, right? You can still do hard work, but make it fun. Like I like to mow grass out of my tractor on my property that I have. And I've got a lot of property, and I like to, I call it my ranch, although it's not really a ranch. It's only about 48 acres. But nonetheless, I like to get out there in the tractor and do things. It's hard. I have to cut trees, do all that stuff, but it's also a lot of fun too.
It's so true. We have horses, and there was just an upset at our barn with some barn drama. And we went from they're taking care of the horses to now we need to do self-care. But it's totally fine with me because there's just something about, hauling the water and throwing the hay and just getting out there, working with your hands. I don't know. There's just something about it that's so grounding. And I actually absolutely love it.
Well, shoveling a few horse muffins doesn't hurt anybody in life. You got to do it from time to time. I started my son out when he was a teenager. We got him a job at a horse stables, and I thought that was one of the best jobs he could probably have. For a 16-year-old to be shoveling horse, you know what? That's a good thing to do. You learn out very quickly what you don't want to do in life when you're doing that.
It's so true. This summer, my daughter spent a week at a Mustang sanctuary where they rescue Mustangs, and so she spent the entire week. And I thought she was just going to get to like be with the horses all day, and they put her to work. When we picked her up at the end of the week, she's fixing fences, she's hauling manure, she's just like doing all this stuff, and it was amazing to actually see her like get out there and work so hard when we can hardly get her to do the dishes. But it was just this week of crazy work, but it's so good for them.
Exactly. It's good stuff.
Yes. So when do you feel like, working hard in your business starts to, or maybe it never does, but when does it start to maybe take a toll or be like, hey, wait, I maybe shouldn't be working quite this hard because I'm actually hurting my business? Like, where do you see that play in?
Well, you got to have balance in everything. I think Stephen Covey years ago, my good friend, I was on stages with him for years, and he used to say that you have to have a balance in life. You have to have a spiritual side. You have to have friends. You have to have family. You have to have business, and you have to, like a four-way teeter-totter, you have to balance those things. And when one gets out of whack, it throws the other ones off. So you've got to learn to be able, as an entrepreneur, as a business leader, executive, our job is not to be the most smartest person in the room, but be most strategic. And so with that, you have to realize that there's got to be some balance. And it's tough. Listen, as an entrepreneur, as a person, I bought and sold over 250 businesses in my career, 25 billion in transactions, spent 200, days on the road. Last night when I stepped on a plane, one of the flight attendants thanked me for my 5 million miles on that airline. Now, that's on one airline. That I got 2 million on another one and 1 million on another, and that doesn't count the corporate miles that I used to spend in my own private jet. So, you just learn to have that balance. And again, but getting back to those conditions of satisfaction I mentioned a few minutes ago, you really have to have a good sense of who you are, what you are, where you want to go, and what you want to do. And if you have that, then it makes those decisions a lot simpler. It makes everything a lot simpler by having a clear direction on what you're trying to, to do, to solve, and where you want to be when you grow up.
Yeah, absolutely. With this massive success that you've had in your life, who was instrumental for you in helping you to, make transformation or change things that maybe you were doing before that weren't working? Who was inspirational for you?
Well, they're every day. I run into them every day, whether it's my assistant, Marilyn. Sometimes we butt heads, but there are other times that we have great breakthroughs and things that we do. I mean, we find inspiration in all the things that we do. The people that make the most impact on my life are people that you'll never know of. It's the Harold Jones, a former Marine gunner sergeant who kind of adopted me when I was 14, when my father was over in Vietnam, and made sure that I didn't get into trouble. It was Mr. Penson who gave me a job when I was 16 years old, and worked as a plumber's assistant. So I had some money so I could join a hunting camp. It was Michael Connors in the world who sold me a business and then taught me how to do a Z out on a cash register and measure profits every day. Or John Timmer, former insuranceman, who was also a state legislator who did things for the right reasons and sometimes in very unpopular things, it could have been a lot easier for him, but he was based on values. I mean, these are people that most people wouldn't know, but I find inspiration, every day. I was in the Las Vegas airport today and watched a woman who worked at Miami Subs there in the decon course and how she upsold people. As I sit down at the table, by the front counter, I'm just impressed. You see hustlers like that, and those are the folks I find inspiration every single day.
I love that so much. And I like how you named people that probably nobody has heard of, and yet they still had an impact on you. And I think that's a testament that we can have in our own world, in our own little businesses, whatever that looks like, that we can have an impact on the world just by acting with integrity and being who we are.
Yeah, I mean, this weekend I was down and I was going through the airport, ran into a friend of mine who's also an actor and hadn't seen him in 4 or 5 years because of COVID. And he was telling me about his new motion picture film. He said, "Where are you going?" I said, "Well, I'm going to say goodbye to my stepfather, who my stepfather's been around for about 45 years of my life. And I hadn't seen him since last year. And he's 96 years old, declining. So I got to go see him because he's declining, and I want to make sure he knows how important he was in our lives." And so he said, "Oh, well, you're going to Sarasota. Why don't you go see our friend Joe DiMaggio Jr.?" I said, "Joe's living down there? I thought he was up in New York." "No, he's living in Sarasota. He's got a restaurant." Boom. And so I went and saw my stepfather, spent as much time as I could with him before he crashed, because at 96, and when you're at the advanced stages of death, which is, just to be real blunt about it, you don't have a lot of energy. So I decided that, I was going to go have a scotch, relax, kind of sit back and reflect on those days, all the things that Gene taught me, which was many, about business, about property, about a lot of different things. Just a good man. And then, even though he's not blood, as some might say, here he was a good man. He was as much my father as any man was. And then I went over and saw Joe, and I ran into Joe, who owns a string of restaurants all over the country, yet he's back behind the chef's table cooking. And
Oh, no.
it took the time to come over, see me, give me a big hug. We talked for a few minutes. Then he had to go, said, I got to go back behind the thing. He said, are you going to eat? I said, yes, I'm going to eat. He goes, let me pick you out. Would you mind if I order for me? And then he picked me out 3 dishes, the best dishes in the world, and then come over and brought me this wonderful dessert that it says was his grandmother's recipe with a fork and said, please eat this. And I was stuffed by the time I got out of there. But what an inspiration. What a great time to see somebody who loves what they do and being there every single day. The place was packed. You couldn't get a table. I had to belly up to the bar, which was great because that's where I love to sit anyway. And I got to talk to the employees. I got to talk to other patrons that were there and just have a great time and be inspired.
Wow. Oh, that's so funny. That's so cool. So, what would you say to a business owner that, let's say, they're just kind of mired, they're buried in the day to day. In fact, it's hard to kind of see that light at the end of the tunnel. They're not feeling super inspired. Like, what would you say to them to kind of help them to step into a higher place where they can actually work with more inspiration in their day to day?
Well, the only person that's going to change it for you is the person that's looking in the mirror at you every day. That's it. It's not your accountant, not your attorney, not your banker, not your mom. Okay, it's you. Every single day, the person who's responsible for you is you, and that person looks at you in the mirror every day. I call that the mirror test, and you have to do that every day. Find out whether your business is breathing and what you need to do. Right. The other thing is set some rules, set some parameters, do some time blocks, do some other things to set and say what are the most important things that I've got to do today. I live in South Dakota, New York, Miami, LA. We have offices in LA, San Francisco, everywhere, Pittsburgh. And people always say, why do you live in Sioux Falls? I finally said, because I can. And that you just have to have an attitude that says that's what it's going to be because I can. You can control your destiny every single day. You decide what's on your calendar. You decide what your priorities are. You decide whether somebody's going to suck up your day or time and waste your efforts every day. So, I try to automate, delegate, eliminate. I sit down and look at the list. What's the most important things that I have to get out and done today? There's a lot of important things. I probably have on my Monday list 180 things to do over the next couple of days, but only the 2 biggest things I had to do was get out 2 sets of letters to invite people to join me in Cabo, San Lucas for the first week of October. So I needed to get those letters out so I could get those registrations done and get people. So you put priorities, you change them. And that's what you need to be able to understand. But automate, delegate, eliminate every day. Go through that list. What can I get rid of? What can I just delete off my plate? What can I automate, or what can I delegate to others? And so, for years, I wasn't doing that. I wasn't as effective and I was down in the dumps about things. So I decided, hey, I'm the one that can change it, make a difference, right? And that's what you have to look at. You understand that as a business leader, you're going to fail and you're going to fail often. That's the nature of the deal. Everybody does that. Everybody asks me in these interviews, what's your biggest failure? Jennifer, you might be going to ask me that a little bit later. Let's just cut through it. I don't know. I haven't done it yet, which what I mean is there's always going to be one that's bigger. And so it's not about failing fast. It's about winning fast. And that's what you have to get in that frame of mind. It wasn't too long ago, I was doing an event for one of the biggest talent agencies in the world. And they had some major players in that room. And they asked me to come and talk about marketing on a big macro level. As former chief marketing officer, one of the biggest marketers out there, they said, would you come and talk about building the brand of you? How do these movie stars build their own brands? And so in that room was some of the biggest players in Hollywood you've ever seen. And so, in fact, one of them asked me a question. This was what he said. And by the way, you would know who this is. I'd give you 3 guesses, and you would be able to guess it within the 3 guesses. One of the biggest blockbuster stars there is. And he said, Jeff, what do you do about those little voices in your head every day? I said, what voices?
Wow.
He said, those voices that tell you you're an imposter, you're not good enough, you can't do it. I said, I stopped inviting those voices to my conversations a long time ago. And so that's what we have to do. We have to make a decision. That doesn't mean that they haven't been there, that they won't be there, that they pop up. I just stopped listening to them a long time ago. And so that's what we have to do. So, get in the right frame of mind. You're the only one that's responsible for you. So get off your keister, get off your couch and quit eating bonbons and feeling sorry for yourself and get in the game.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. Was there a time in business that you learned a really important lesson, but maybe it came disguised as something like horrible that was happening? It seemed like a horrible thing, but
Every
it
day. What are
turned
you talking
out
about?
Every
Every
day.
day, every day something pops up. But but I've had those big ones. I mean, like, I tried to corner the market on pheasants, one time until I found out there wasn't one, right? I lost my rear end. I had 10,000 pheasants look up into the sky one night when it was raining, and there's like 3 inches of rain in half an hour. And they, if you know anything about pheasants, they look up the sky, they open their beaks, and they drown. They're the stupidest freaking birds in the face of the earth. So yeah, I had to pony up. Back then it was like $5,000 overnight. I had to write a check for $5,000 to keep the place going, and like I didn't have $5,000. Of course, that was terrible. It was catastrophic. What did I do? Why did I do this? I again tried to corner the market. There wasn't one. Okay, good. Lesson learned. So there's something like that happens absolutely every day. If I had people who come to me and said, back out. Or let's take COVID, for example. I was having a major conference in Norfolk, Virginia. We rented out the USS Wisconsin, the entire battleship. Was going to have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people going to come, and COVID hit. And then all the deposits had to refund them all, send the money back, all that kind of stuff. Hotel wouldn't give me a refund, none of that. The USS Wisconsin didn't give me a refund, gave me a little bit, which was kind of nice of them. But most of the others, no. I had to pay everybody. Well, turn it on to an online event, had 3,500 instead of 350 people come. So there's you can make a little lemonade out of some lemons. So, but nonetheless, it's still tough to do. A lot of effort wasted. Well, but that in the end, no one died. No one died, and pheasants died, but no people died.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah, exactly. COVID was so interesting because I feel like we have an internal joke. We call it the gift that keeps on giving, because there was just so many things that happened as COVID being the catalyst. No disrespect to anybody who did actually die in COVID
Yeah,
and the poor
yeah, they were.
pheasants. Yeah,
Yeah.
but it was interesting to me to watch all of our clients and the ones who pivoted, and actually many of them ended up where the beginning of the year when it started, they thought they were going to lose their businesses, and they actually finished the year with record-breaking profits because they did. They pivoted, they didn't let it beat them. And it's just amazing to me, that resiliency that you see not in all business owners, but in a lot of business owners, where it's just, being able to take something difficult, challenging, and then actually turn it into something that has a better outcome and a better ending. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Well, resourcefulness in terms of doing it. Not all businesses thrive. Not all businesses survive. Many went beyond that, and did well. I remember a good one of our Hero Club members in the C-Suite network. She started a business on Friday the 13th, a restaurant business, a whiskey and burger bar, on that very day that they shut everything down, just down the road from me there in New York, near West Point. And yet she's thriving and doing great. She did more than survive, and that was our message to a lot of our C-suite network. Isn't about just survive. And that doesn't do you any good just to survive. I know lots of people who were military or, fought in wars and they survived, but they didn't thrive. And so,
Yeah.
there's a big difference. And back then I said to everybody, I said, look, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a nurse. I don't even have a sew mask. But what I am is a business first responder. So what do we have to do for everybody? What do we need to do for each other in order to make sure that we not only, survive, but we thrive and we drive and we move through this so we can make you in better shape than you were. And it wasn't easy. I don't wish it on anybody. Will we have those times again? Yes. Will we have the draconian, what I might call draconian efforts of shutting down businesses? I don't think that will ever happen to the extent that it happened this last time, because most people won't put up with it. And I also think we'll find ways around it. And that's what's most important, is that we learn to know, we could do things different. We could do it remote. We could do things on Zoom or on meetings, video meetings. We could do it in different ways, and we could still, make money. We could not just survive. We could thrive. We could actually increase. And even during the recession, as we start talking about this recession, there's lots of people who have done well during the downturns. I mean, Airbnb was founded during the last 2008. Uber was founded. Who would have thought, 20 years ago or 15 years ago, that you would put your daughter in a car at 2 a.m. after she's been out drinking with somebody she doesn't know? Who would have thought that, in 2008, that somebody would invent a business that you would welcome them in your house. They would sit naked on your couch and they'd pay you money for it. I mean, it's just nuts to think about things like that. And yet here we are. Here's what we're doing. And billion-dollar businesses, unicorns are born. The same thing back in the 70s. Microsoft, Apple was born. Go further back, GM was born. HP was born in 1936. I mean, all of these businesses that were during, some of the worst economic conditions in the world were born, and not only born, still some of the biggest companies today. So it can be done. Are you the one to do it?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I love it so much. It's so funny. We just had an Airbnb and you just made me think of like who else was sitting naked on this couch and
Yeah, there you
I'm like,
go.
ah. But it really is an amazing thing to think that you can now like, rent
Yeah,
somebody's house and we just did. We were just there and it was like,
yeah,
you're right. We're like inside somebody else's space, but it was great. I loved it because it felt like home. It didn't feel like a hotel and we didn't want to
yeah.
feel like we were in a hotel. We wanted to feel like we were away from home. So it is
Good for
amazing
you.
some of
I'm
these.
staying in a home. I'm staying in a hotel. That's what I'm doing. I'm staying in a hotel. Not a problem. I have no issue. Or a cabin that no one else has been to for a long time. Or way out in the
Yeah.
wild. That I could, a teepee maybe, or a tent. I can do that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Enjoy that.
yeah, I know. We love that too. We just took our first 10-day motorcycle trip. I learned how to ride a motorcycle in the last couple months. I've been on the back of my husband's bike. So we went out for 10 days. I was too chicken to camp on the first time of 10 days on the bike. I'm like, I need like a room and a hot shower at the end of every day. Next time I'll
There
do the
you go.
tent. I'm like, all right, next time I feel like I can handle tents with this. Maybe not every night, but yeah,
Come on,
it was
come
so
out to
great.
South Dakota. Come on out to the Black Hills for Sturgis. You got to come out for the Sturgis bike rally. That's the only time that everybody in South Dakota leaves the state and lets everybody else come in and just say, "Hey, when you're done, turn the lights off, and we'll be back the day after." Because literally, our state population doubles. Most South Dakotans try to get out of the state when all the bikers are coming in.
That's what everybody is telling me. They're like, Jen, you need to do Sturgis. I'm like, okay, maybe I'll put that on my radar. We just rode from New York up through Vermont, all across Maine,
Man,
down to New Hampshire and back to New York. But now I'm like, all right, I did 10 days. I loved it. I'm ready to do. We want to do like a month. We'll go from New York all the way out west. So we'll stop and say hi, Jeff, in South
you bet.
Dakota.
Well, they get there, see the Black Hills, Mount Rushmore, Crazy Horse Memorial, and of
That's the
course,
one we want to see is Crazy Horse. Yeah.
though they're good friends. Yadviga and her sisters and brothers and now nieces and nephew all run it, and you get a chance to now the whole family. It's a 75-year-old startup, is what it has been, owned by the family, run by the family, and they've done a good job. They climb up on that mountain, blow rocks off of it, chisel away on it. They're still making progress, and you get to walk out on the arm if you treat them nice. They'll let you walk out on Crazy Horse's arm, which is, like 10, 20, or 50 times bigger than Mount Rushmore. And it's just massive. Just the fingernail on the end of his outstretched arm is 11 feet across. So just to give you an idea, scope of scale of that, it's just massive. But go see the wildlife loop in Custer. We love people to come. Don't get off your bike and don't ride through the buffalo herds, because every year we get somebody that gets hurt. They think those buffalo are nice big cows, but they're wild. So
They are wild. They are wild. I was born in Arizona and grew up out west and lived in Montana. And there's a lot of buffalo there. And you learn, like, it's like, no, guys, these are wild animals.
yeah.
Like, don't treat them like cows.
Yeah. Well, there's this saying, yeah, or bears. There's this saying, what doesn't hurt you will make you stronger, except bears. Bears will kill you. Bears will kill
Bears
you.
will
So,
just kill you. Yes.
well, last year, this is one of the greatest things in Sturgis. There's now T-shirts here. Come visit South Dakota, and I can't remember where. But don't pet the buffalo, and it's got a picture of a buffalo, because a woman went up to the buffalo, and one of the buffaloes gored her, but grabbed her by the jeans, ripped her jeans off of her, and those jeans were hanging on that buffalo for like a week and a half, and
Oh,
it was crazy. You'd see that buffalo out in the middle of the prairie with a pair of jeans on its horn.
pair of
So
jeans. Oh my
yeah,
God.
yeah.
That is crazy. Oh my gosh. I love it. I love it. So funny. So funny.
Oh
Jeff,
yeah, that's what it said. It said we've been bison have been buffalo or been tossing tourists since 1889. That's what it was.
Very nice, very nice. Well, we will definitely have to put that on our itinerary when we make our little cross-country journey on the bikes. I love it. Wonderful. Thank you so much for being here with me today. Is there one piece of information or just one final thought you'd love to leave with our listeners today?
Well, I think the biggest thing for most people right now is just to focus in on what problem you're solving. I said that and I'm going to do it. That's what I do every single day. The more that we focus on that, the more we focus and say, oh, we're this or we're that. No, no, no. Focus on the problem you're solving for somebody. And if you can solve problems for somebody, they'll pay you. And that's the most important thing that we can think of or should be thinking of every day in our business.
Yeah, I agree completely. Jeff, if people want to learn more about you and all your amazingness, where can they go to find you?
Well, if they're watching, they can certainly go to my email right there, Jeffrey.Hayzlett, Jeffrey.Hayzlett at c-suitenetwork.com, C-suite, S-U-I-T-E network.com. Or you can find me on social media. I've got a million followers all over the place, so you can find me on every social media there is. You direct message me, I'll get back to you.
Very nice. Thank you so much for being here with us today. A wonderful insight and wisdom that I know you're leaving everybody with. And that's it, you guys. Get out there and have a great, happy, productive day. Bye, y'all.